You sing, so we'll sing together. I cry, and you cry, so we'll cry together. I love, and you love, so we'll love together. You hurt, I hurt, so we learned together, through everything, even the smaller things, even the harder things, we stay together, yeah. Through everything, even the bigger things, nothing's impossible if we stay together, yeah. You joke, I joke, so we laugh together. We share, we cuss, but we learn together. We hurt, we fuss, but let's hurt together. I live, you live, so we live together, through everything, even the smaller things, even the harder things, we stay together.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Can You Connect? And this is Mr. Walk That Walk. And today's episode, we're going to be going over people who are struggling with suicide or struggling with self-harm, and them also being connected with other people or even being in relationships. Or maybe what it looks like, when you're dealing with them. So you have a better understanding of how they're feeling. We're going to go over, our first person is a Caucasian male from the UK. He goes over often having thoughts about taking his life, and said at high school during winter, was kind of fed up with school, was ready to do it, and called his friend, but his friend told him he called this friend because they often have thoughts. His friend often has thoughts about taking his life as well. And he mentioned wanting everything just to stop. However, the friend actually encouraged him to just get up and do a weird dance, and he ended up laughing but crying through it as well, which helped him break through those negative thoughts. However, he does have an understanding. He does know people who also took their life before. He knows a girl in school that has done that to herself, and his grandfather's mother has also took her life as well. So, he does have something. Sometimes things, if you know somebody who does it, or if you have a family member who has done it, sometimes people are more susceptible to doing it themselves, especially if they're in that family or, has dealt with it. And what helped him is saying that he could always do it tomorrow. So that creates space from that situation. It gives you time to work through those emotions a bit better. So if you're always saying, well, I could do it tomorrow, or maybe I could do it the next day, then that prevents you from committing that act. And this other person we're going to be going over is a Asian lady from Singapore. Stated surviving when she jumped. So she actually attempted to jump and ended up breaking her bones and breaking her spine, and survived, but not being able to walk again. But she stated that, beforehand she would do self-harming by cutting herself. And in school felt like she was losing control and would cut herself every day after school to feel back in control. She ended up having a thought about it and turned it into the plan to do something to herself, and then acted it out. Due to feeling trapped and alone, and that nothing was going right in her life, and there was nothing for her on earth. She was in pain due to her fall, crying out and screaming, which that makes sense, especially when you're breaking bones. Her mental health got worse after surviving it, because she was angry that she wasn't able to follow through with her plan, and upset about being disabled now, because now she has to live with that, and seeing everybody move forward, and seeing that she can't have her dreams of playing tennis or going to college. However, being able to accept that she wasn't going to be able to walk again kind of helped her mental health as well. But she still dealt with the judgment of people who judged her for cutting herself, saying that her family loves her so she shouldn't cut herself, or saying that she's doing this to get attention, when for her it was none of these things that she was doing it. But when she was able to address her trauma in her childhood, it helped her feel better, and she was able to work through things and work on finally going back to school and making progress in her life. And this is another Asian lady from Singapore. She discussed self-harm. She was doing self-harm, but told her father and not her mother, due to being worried about her mother's reaction to things, because let's say the mother may go over the top, and she ended up switching schools, where she dealt with school bullying, cyberbullying online, and before she even got to the school, people were calling her fat and ugly, and due to these things and having no friends, this kind of made her feel worse. And at home, she would get in trouble for expressing how she felt, and didn't feel understood by anybody. It took her mom a while to understand that there's strength in somebody being vulnerable. So that kind of helped with their relationship, because at first it was pretty rocky. and she spoke to, she ended up finally speaking to her mom, and her mom finally wanted to help and see her, get healed. And after the situation, it wasn't until after her doing self-harm, and the mom seen the outcome of things, that that she was ready to help and change how she feels about being present and not being strict. We have somebody else another girl. We have a girl who is mixed race. I believe she might have been Middle Eastern and Asian, maybe. She discussed, her mom actually asked her about the self-harm, but the daughter didn't really express how she felt to her mom. So it was a tug of war between the mom trying to get to know what's going on, but the daughter's kind of withholding information and not really expressing how she feels. And the daughter always says that she dealt with issues with body image and issues, with her friends, and due to she could not fit any clothing, which made her feel a bit sad and guilty for not being able to fit in. And since she was mixed race, she was a bit, from what I looked at her, she seemed that she wasn't huge. She was just had a different shape than, let's say, the other girls who might have been her friends, who were like strictly Asian and that was it. They have a different body type. If you were somebody who is mixed race, or you have different things in you, you're gonna look a bit different. But she wanted to fit in, and she didn't want to look different, because the other girls were probably super skinny, and she wanted to look like that. At home, she had no freedom and felt guilty when she was doing the wrong things, because she still had a lot of love for her parents. Before her attempt, she didn't want to be a burden on her family. She would compare herself to her mom, because her mom was skinny and pretty, and she would question why she has these negative thoughts that she should be as put together as her mom. And she also thought her mom wouldn't understand, so that's why she was holding things back from her. But when she went to therapy and understood her parents' perspective, and she started seeing her parents as humans, just regular human beings, and not putting them on a big pedestal to where she can't even have a relationship with them. And due to that, her family was understanding, and her mom was supportive. Her mom always been supportive. She just needed Dara to open up. So in that situation, it was a bit different. She wasn't as rigid as the other mom was. And the final person is a African American woman from the U.S. She discussed how she struggled with self-harm. So she didn't do attempts, but she did have self-harm stuff. And she said that telling her partner upfront about it helped, because that allowed them to, be supportive, rather than waiting to tell and get caught off guard and they may end up leaving because, you know, that's a big surprise to witness and see. But when she did tell them, she would pay attention to their reactions. So if they had a positive reaction and wanted to be supportive, you know, she would continue with them. But if they had a negative kind of reaction, then, you know, she wouldn't want to continue with that person. But she also mentioned the people that do help, she needed to set boundaries with them. You know. And she often had a hard time with expressing her emotions and expressing how she feels. Had a hard time saying that she's sad or wanting to self-injure, and, you know, didn't want to, having a hard time saying that because she didn't want to get hurt by the partner. But understand that she needed to express how she felt and allow her partner to support her. But some of the words, some of the self-injury words, she didn't really like those, so she came up with like code words that she was feeling off or feeling like maybe she wanted to do self-harm so that her partner could show up for her. And she told her partner that, you know, when she is feeling off, she often fidgets. But she also needs to set the boundaries and tell her partner, you know, maybe if they are having a talk about it, that sometimes maybe she wants to stop and not continue due to feeling triggered. Because sometimes a conversation will maybe make her more triggered, especially maybe if the partner's maybe pushing too much or trying to fix them. So it really depends on how supportive the partner is being in that moment. Hopefully they could just, you know, work on allowing their partner to show them what they need so they could best help them. So that will definitely conclude this episode. It's definitely important to seek help from family, therapy, you know. But if you're feeling really on the edge, definitely calling 911 or 988 so people can come out and really support you. Because even when you have to get hospitalized and stuff like that, at least you're receiving the support. At least you're receiving something. At least people are coming to your aid, and people are coming to help you and look out for you, and, you know, do things that maybe other people weren't doing. So definitely just keeping those things in mind, you know, going forward. The black business we're going to be supporting tonight is Kuisine Cafe. So they're a restaurant in Baltimore. I'll put up their information in the description. And of course, support the artist who does the music in my video, and the person who made my avatar, and myself. I'm a clinical social worker for the state of Maryland, so I can provide individual, couples, and family therapy. So definitely, you know, if you need anything, send something down in the description. I'll try to get back the best way I can. So that will conclude this episode, and y'all definitely have a good rest of the night and good rest of the day.
Our lives are filled with drama. Our homes are homes, they feel empty. Our dreams are we were